So today we're doing our Scaling for Success expert panel. We're going to be talking about a lot of industry insights that we discovered in our 2024 ECE benchmark report. We'll go ahead and get started for the sake of time. I know everyone's busy. So Brett, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sierra. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. Brett Neller, CEO of LineLeader. Took over the reins in October of 23. I've been with the company 5 years, excited about 2024, and excited about our first webinar of the year with these experts that have been so gracious to share their time with us on a busy Tuesday morning after a longer weekend. But thank you for joining us. I'd like to send it around the room real quick for introductions, so everybody knows who these experts are. I'm sure you all know who they are, but I'd like to kick it over to Lynn. Lynn, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and what you're passionate about?
Thank you, Brett. I'm real happy to be here. My name is Lynn Wenger. I'm the Executive Vice President of Strategic Initiatives for One Place Childcare. And my background, I come from the business side of the house. I have 30 plus years of systems and processes and building infrastructure so that you can scale. And I've been in early education for the last 6+ years. In my role at One Place Childcare, really I'm helping to build the North American market. We are a 14-year-old company focused on compliance and best practice. It's a software platform for those of you that don't know, and also design practice. And the intention is to bring compliance and best practice to the digital forefront, and then also using data to manage your business, identify gaps so that you can limit liability and keep your children and families and staff safe. So I'm delighted to be here and engaged in the conversation.
Thanks, Lynn. If you all haven't checked out One Place, please check it out. Compliance is really, really important. Becoming increasingly more important as we move through 2024 and beyond. So check it out if you haven't seen a really good platform. I'd like to kick it over to Bobby.
Well, thank you so much, Brett. Thank you, LineLeader, for doing this. My name is Bobby Franzo, CEO here at PB&J TV and girl dad extraordinaire, I like to say. I am proud to have led our brand recently to Inc. 5000's fastest growing streaming providers in the US. And many of you have previously known us as a parent streaming and engagement app. We are rapidly expanding and evolving into a true video operational tool, including AI and other video management related tools for ECE providers, and something we're really excited about 24 and 25 to expand our brand.
Awesome. Thanks, Bobby. Again, really nice, slick platform. If you haven't checked out PB&J TV, highly recommend it. Thanks. So there are two tech providers or tech experts on the space. Now to more on the services side, I'd like to kick it over to Beth Cannon.
Brett. I'm Beth Cannon. I've been in ECE for 25 years. Started off as an enrichment program called Stretch and Grow, going in and serving centers. So lots and lots of information and content just serving in so many schools over the years. And I'm a ECE business and leadership strategist. I do leadership training, sprint courses, and then I do team building. And my really passion is leadership retreats, getting in with the directors, with the owners, and doing those retreats to help them level up, optimize their operations, and get their team in line.
Thanks, Beth. Yeah, if you need a guest speaker, you need somebody to come motivate your crew, nobody better than Beth Cannon. She's done it for
Hey, and you know I love a mic and a stage, Brett.
Yeah. Awesome, love it. Thank you so much, Beth, for being here. I'd like to kick it over to Kathy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kathy Petchel, and I've beat everybody so far. I have almost 40 years in the industry. I'm also a multi-site owner. I have 3 locations in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I work with both Beth and Lynn. Beth recently spoke for a cohort group in Virginia for us. So one thing I love about this industry, and you all are leading it, Brett, is the way we collaborate and the way we generously share information. I just love that. So on the other side, I work with Hinge Advisors. I joined Hinge in 2017, and it's my dream job because I get to talk shop all day. I'm kind of like Beth. Like, give me a stage, give me a microphone, give me a telephone. Let's just talk shop. How can we be better for children in the industry? At Hinge, the main thing we do is help you when you're ready to sell your school. But there is such a long runway before that. There's so many ways we can help you be prepared to sell. And one thing Kathy Ligon says from Hinge is you should start thinking about your exit strategy when you open your doors. And so we do that whole process of, I've got 40 years in, working on second generation. Now my daughter and son-in-law are taking over my company. So you're never bored in this industry, and there's always a new challenge.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathy. If you haven't checked out Hinge, please check it out. Looking to sell your center, awesome opportunity to help coach you through that process. And to wrap up our group of experts, none other than Chris Murray.
Thanks, Brett. I am the founder of the Childcare Success Company, and I'm really honored to co-sponsor this benchmark report with LineLeader. We have a team of 10 coaches and almost 30 folks now over at Childcare Success, and we're serving close to 350 organizations in business coaching, running mastermind groups and events, big and small, and doing trainings of all sorts on the business side primarily. Although we have gotten into some teacher training, teacher empowerment, and classroom components as well. So very, very excited to be here. The company was founded in 2009, and I've been working in early childhood since that time. And I'm a new empty nester, so I'm 5 months in to not having kids at home for the first time, and giving me some newfound freedom to travel to more schools and spend more time with these beautiful heart-centered folks. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Again, Childcare Success Company, one of the best conference in the space, Childcare Success Summit every year. Please check it out. We go as a vendor participant and sponsor. Really meaningful, love interacting with all the operators in the space. So all these people on here today providing their time, thank you again so much. Really, really appreciate it. So we'll get into it. We have a series of questions we'll run through, and I'll pass them off. But love to hear your opinions and expert advice on these. The first one we'll talk about round robin is, have you seen the industry change in the last 12 months? It's a fast, rapidly changing space, technology emerging, government funding. There's a lot going on. So love to get your opinion on how you've seen the industry change in the last 12 months. And I'll kick it off with Kathy.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Awesome. Well, this is one of my favorite topics because, like I said before, it changes all the time, and that's what makes this industry very interesting. So a couple things that we've seen, and I was really interested in your report because you're talking a lot about enrollment. So one thing is, and we coach on this all the time, is really needing to keep up with your tuition rates, because as the grants have slowed down or stopped in most states, not all, and there's some new ones to take care of the cliff, we're really needing to make sure our tuition rates keep up with our salaries. And it is a crazy time right now with hiring. We've got 4 generations in the workplace, and you've got different stages of each team. And so many people are trying to be very opportunistic, especially the private equity people and some of the bigger groups. So if you're looking to grow, this is a really good time to grow. Also good time to sell because of what's happening in the industry. We led the industry with how do you stay safe during COVID? And, we showed the public schools the way. We took care of the essential workers. So the trends and changes right now, continued challenges on staffing, continued higher expectations for staff with not just their pay, but with their benefits and their days off. The Monday, Friday thing is a real thing. They like to be off on Mondays and Fridays. And then really the parent, one thing I love talking about Generation Z, and something really interesting about them is that they are now our clients, you know, our parent consumers, as well as our staff. So as much as we used to roll our eyes about the millennials, oh, those millennials, they, you know, they need the trophy. They're our 2-year-olds. They want to know why. Generation Z are much more sensitive. And so if you can wrap your mind and your heart around Generation Z, you are set for the future because of enrollment and because of your staff. Those are just a couple things.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for that. And Chris, I know you partnered with us on the benchmark report. Thanks again for doing that. It's a big effort, but a lot of your organizations you work with contributed to that. Provided some of these insights, but what are your thoughts on the industry in the past 12 months, and maybe how you see it evolving moving forward?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest challenge for the industry that we saw was that our folks, and just folks all over, weren't adequately planning for financial shifts. And so they didn't put enough time and focus on their financials and on projecting financials and socking some of that money away from their grants. And they were maybe too dependent on it. So when the cliff happened, we've seen stress for sure. The industry is super stressed right now, which breaks my heart, but we are working hard. We did a financial course. We're, everybody here is giving tools to try to support. And so I just think, focusing back on the basics of good business practice, specifically making sure that you are raising rates properly. Although I think that we're hitting a ceiling there. Many have raised and then they feel like now they can't be competitive. So they're hitting a ceiling, to Kathy's point. But just going back to where can I pick up some nickels in my financial statement? How can I manage my company better so that I can continue to pay staff what they need to be paid and still make a profit margin at the bottom line? So I think that is just really, really important so we can stay viable and centers can stay open and we can continue to serve families.
Yep, absolutely. P&L management, cash flow management, core business principles we should all practice. We do it here in the technology space as well. So regardless of the business you're running, really, really super important. Thanks. Beth, throw it over to you. What have you seen in the last 12 months, and what do you see moving forward from trends and from your perspective?
Well, I spend a lot of time, in the schools with the leaders. So, whereas Chris will focus on the business and the finances and the marketing piece and the sustainability piece, my heart is in with the staff. And so what I've seen in the last 12 months is people are starting to apply for jobs. And when leaders can shift their focus from marketing for employees, like you are literally selling your business, you are promoting your employer staff brand to people, and you are creating your employer brand. Who are you? Who do you want to attract? What are your benefits? What are those bullet points that are going to get people in the door? Are you paying attention to your Indeed ads? And so the ones who are winning in staffing are the ones who are being really intentional about creating their staff brand. And so we've seen, we're not necessarily short-staffed anymore for the ones who are being intentional about it. So you're getting the people in the door. And so the big piece is who's going to win? Who's going to win in getting the people that are in your community, because you're competing with your other centers. So staffing has gotten better, but now it's the retention piece. So are you bringing them in? Are you onboarding them well? Are you training them well? Do you have good systems? Do you have a mentor teacher system to where people will come in and truly feel a part? So it's creating the employee experience that's going to keep them there. So they're going to win if they're strategic and intentional about their staffing. And so that's the biggest thing I think I've seen is we're not short-staffed and can't grow because of that. It's just, can they handle the turnover and can they do the things they need to do to hang on to the right people to continue to grow and sustain their businesses?
Yeah. So resourcing, cash management, staff management, make sure you have that bench, right, of potential candidates, always working them because you never know when you're going to need them. So really important.
And don't be a jerk. And don't be a jerk.
Karma. I'm a big believer in karma. So I agree with that 100%. From a technology perspective, I'll kick it over to Lynn, and we'll have Bobby close up this question. Lynn, what do you think? What have you seen in the past 12 months? And then what do you kind of see trends moving forward?
Sure. So for the past 12 months, I agree that we're still facing some staffing and retention issues, funding. But on the flip side of that coin, we're seeing very aggressive growth. And that was echoed in your benchmark study, as well as the forecast that Hinge did with Phil Vaccaro. And what we're seeing is aggressive growth in the mid-markets and with the franchises. And then the single sites are also stepping up their game for quality, for branding, making sure that they have a place at the table. So we're actually seeing aggressive growth right now. And in tandem with that, the need for data and analyzing data is at an all-time high. It has not been language that we typically have seen in early education, but we're beginning to see the recognition that without data, we can't see where we're driving our business. So whether it's on the financial side or if it's on the compliance side, operational side, data has become king. And so kind of what I'm seeing over perhaps the next 5 to 10 years, we may actually see some new job titles coming to the org chart. Things like data analyst, things like business intelligence expert. Those are skills that help use the information that we're capturing to the benefit or through the benefit of technology. So that's kind of where I'm seeing it going, is new roles that are emerging and then having to be more savvy about what information are we collecting about how our business is operating. And that's across all markets, small, medium, and large.
Awesome. All good. Yeah, totally relevant. Love it. Bobby, what about on your side? Are you seeing anything similarly there?
Absolutely. And really just to kind of piggyback on what Lynn was speaking to about the data, in the benchmark report as well. I mean, you guys had 80% of respondents are targeting growth for next year, which is incredible. And really one of the big things we've seen post-COVID and really led by LineLeader is kind of this data unification across platforms. And that is so key for scale. In our rapid growth, we found that isolated applications create fragmented processes, isolated data, and it's very hard to create transparent data across your teams and across your center. So finding applications that speak to each other via integrations and your all-in-one platforms like LineLeader are imperative for scalable growth, because that data is becoming so much more important for you to operate your schools more efficiently and create consistent brand experiences that parents are demanding these days.
Yep. Thanks for that, Bobby. Yeah, you need the data, right, to be able to make these decisions in this time, right? A lot of uncertainty around funding, a lot of uncertainty around just in general. So the data is going to give you the answers that you need to move forward. I follow so many different companies on LinkedIn, and every day I see a new franchise owner popping up. So the industry is healthy from like a demand perspective. And I think it's going to be a really interesting 2024 and beyond. So awesome stuff. Thank you so much for that. Next question. How do you suggest ECE leaders balance competing priorities and demands within the industry, such as innovation versus risk management, or growth versus program quality loss? And I'd love to kick that over to Chris, if you don't mind kicking us off with the answer there, but your perspective on, you know, balancing innovation versus risk management and growth versus program quality.
So I'm a firm believer, and I've seen it time again, that when you focus on business best practices and business success, and really also I want to talk a lot about teacher engagement here, because I feel like what really is the engine that drives quality and drives our businesses forward, that we couldn't perform without it, are great teachers, you know. And so I feel a lot of these higher tech components are great, and I'm not opposed to scaling and automation and all of that, but I do believe that going a little bit back to basics in 2024 and making sure that your classrooms are really reflecting your core values and core value behaviors and great cultures and engaged teachers is going to take care of 80% of your issue. You know what I mean? Like, that's the protecting the core of the business that's the core of the business. So I think sometimes we get all caught up in all the sexy stuff, but to me, teacher engagement at the end of the day is quality, and ways that you can promote that are, again, checking in on your culture elements, not being a jerk, making great managerial decisions, working with your people, doing your regular one-on-ones, having core value behaviors. People know what an A player looks like. And so that may not be a direct answer to your question, but I feel like it can't be said enough, that just protecting the core of the business, if you know that your classrooms are performing really great and people are empowered and sharing across the aisle, then you can go and start trying to look at some of these other components and plug them in to your business, because you know that high quality is happening every day. So that's kind of my perspective.
Yeah, we talk about all the time, blocking and tackling. Just get the blocking and tackling in place, and the rest will follow suit. So, Beth Cannon, I love any perspective you have on the competing priorities and risk management versus innovation, growth versus program quality.
Well, I think really and truly them understanding their priorities. I know so many leaders struggle with time management, and just the truly understanding of what are your routines and then what are your projects. And so if they can manage their own time and understand this is what my day-to-day looks like, so many of them get caught into this very reactive state.
Yeah.
And so they walk in and they're concerned about Collins, they're concerned about their team, they're concerned about their staff. And so I truly think that unless they get their quality locked in, they're not going to be able to grow. And if that's where they want to grow, business doesn't have to be that hard, right? There's a few simple systems. If they get those systems in place, they pay attention to their time management, they pay attention to their self-management, how they're leading their self, how they're leading their staff, how they're leading their school, those are the ones who are going to win. But the problem is they put so much on their plate, and they get in, they'll sit and they'll listen to a webinar, or they'll watch someone else grow. And so they're paying attention to what someone else is doing, and they're not getting their own house in order. So I'm so passionate about them focusing on what they can do, starting with leading themselves and then moving forward, because they're not going to grow, they're not going to scale if they don't have those good solid systems in place.
Yep, all super relevant, good points. Kathy, anything to add on to Chris and Beth?
Of course. Well, just to piggyback on what Beth said, I was just reading a study about time management the other day, and it was talking about giving your staff an estimated amount of time, particularly directors, to complete a task. Because if it's just very open-ended, they're going to take longer. But think about when you were in college and you had to cram for that exam, or pull that all-nighter. If you give them a little bit less time, I wonder if the quality of their work is similar. Because what I hear, at least from my directors from time to time, oh, I was in a room, talking to a parent, they're doing the things that are really comfortable for them rather than the things that are driving the business forward. And then second, so that's just a backing Beth's comments. And then the second thing would be, it's now or never. I'm hearing from so many people, because of the grants going away or being reduced, that people are thinking about closing. I hear about that a lot. I can't sell your school if you're having to close it. So first things first, begin with the end in mind. The end in mind is a quality program. Quality program means you're profitable. So put all your eggs in that basket and get the help or the coaching you need for that, because that's what's going to drive you forward. We don't want childcare deserts. We want children to have access to quality care no matter what.
Yeah. Awesome. Bobby, any thoughts on that from innovation versus risk management and growth versus program quality loss?
Speaking to our experiences, scaling training and then scaling culture were two key things for us. So we've really leaned into learning platforms. We're blessed with high retention here at PB&J TV, but there is a silver lining to that. Staff get used to doing things the way we've always done things to get us to this point, but that's not necessarily what we need to be doing and how we need to be doing things to get us to our next phase. And keeping that education up to date, keeping them bought into the educational and processy changes, and then making sure as you scale, you do not leave your culture behind. So scaling culture was a big thing. We do things around here. Our core values are breathed into cultural rewards. One of ours is check your egos at the door. And there's like a little door tag when you walk in, and it hits, it makes a noise every time you open the door. So there's little things we do about the core values and always breathing who we are and why we do things. We even do an annual team week. Every day is like a team appreciation theme, something small, but just really breathing in the culture and making sure as you scale, your team's bought in and the core values are brought along with you.
Yep. Awesome. Lynn, to close up the question.
I'm going to take this a slightly different direction. I agree with the people element, and I'm coming at this from a technology landscape. And so in the report, I believe the statistic was 44% of tech licenses are underutilized. So what I think we need to be taking into account is how do you integrate technology into your processes, procedures, your culture, so that it's not perceived as just one more thing that needs to be done. So a very thoughtful approach so that it protects and preserves the people element of it, but it's intended to raise their effectiveness, their efficiency, reducing the mundane parts of their job responsibilities. And then in tandem with that, because I'm the kind of the data nerd here, but what I often see is we need to create a culture where gaps in excellence need to be embraced. It should not be punitive. So as we start looking at change and how do we incorporate some of these new technologies, they're intended to give us visibility of what we could do better or differently. And the culture that supports, we may not all be 100%, but how do we get to where we want to be so we can replicate that and scale? So that's what I would envision is just a more thoughtful approach to tech integration. And just to put a fine point on this is oftentimes the leaders will say, this is the greatest thing. And then at the director level, they're the ones who have to implement it, and the teachers are the ones that have to use it. And if we're not all singing the same value proposition up and down that change, it's going to contribute to that 44% of underutilized licenses.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that had to do with accountability, right? As a leader of organization, the direction you want to take the organization in. You know what technology solutions are going to help. So tech enables an operation to provide better quality of care, efficiencies, et cetera. We're not the answer necessarily, but accountability around why you knew that platform was the right decision in the first place and holding the people within the organization accountable to use it. They don't know it, but it's at the end of the day, it's going to make their life a lot easier and better off. A lot of good themes in here. Strive for excellence. I love that one. We talk about that all the time. Nobody's perfect, but you have to have some sort of guiding North Star that you're aiming towards and always, creeping 1 inch forward. And then always make sure that you have the right people on the bus, right? And that you're not, and if they're not the right people, sometimes it's a hard decision, but it's probably the best decision for your organization. Take care of your people, but make sure you have the right people on the bus. I think are some things that popped out there for me. Awesome. So let's move into some focus around enrollment and growth. Have a couple questions. This is for specifically for Chris and Kathy. But what marketing and enrollment growth trends do you see emerging or expanding in this new year? And I'll let Chris take that to kick us off.
Yeah, so I think for me, the tried and true, going back to what works and staying focused on the things that are going to really move the needle for you. And we've been talking a lot about data so far on this call, and I do feel having a data-driven approach, even if it's simple data, so that you know where exactly you are in your enrollment funnel and what you need to do to move the needle. So a lot of people are trying different things, but they're not really effectively tracking and measuring the data, so they don't really know what's moving the needle. So they're kind of all over the place, right? Because you're kind of like following, well, this person said this. And so I think I also really believe in offers. I believe in getting parents attracted to you through some sort of offer. It doesn't have to be a money off offer, but a founding family offer for a new center, or a promotion that has a premium or a trip or a family weekend or a romance package at Valentine's Day, or a holiday driven offer. I think they're being underutilized for sure. And so if you look around at all the non-childcare industry offers you're being hit with, like, offers work, right? So some of these, back to basics, email marketing, great social, and a huge focus on video, both for hiring teachers and for attracting parents. It's all about video. It's all about reels and short form video, TikToks, etc. So people have to tap into what's working in our industry and what is trending in marketing and in client attraction and staff attraction. So folks can't be afraid of video anymore. They don't want to put themselves in front of the camera, but we have to help them get comfortable with it, or put their team or some components of their school in front of the camera to show off a little bit. Right. And so those are all things that we're continuing to train people on, kind of over and over again, and a little bit of a new flavor here in 2024, but a lot of focus on, and CRM optimization for sure, like digging into your LineLeader, comfortable with all the reports, pulling the reports, looking at the data, having your leadership teams understand the data, and having that collaborative approach to what will move the needle for our organization, setting goals for the next 90 days, and then going after it on a quarterly basis. Nice. If you set 3 goals every quarter, by the end of the year, you're going to have 12 incredible goals accomplished as a team. That's huge. It might not seem like a lot when you're in it, but just stay focused and just, eat that elephant one bite at a time. So those are some of my tips.
Chris, the video thing, I haven't necessarily heard a lot about that. So what are you coaching your organizations to do? Is it just, hey, set up a TikTok account for the first time, get out there, Instagram? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, you can easily find talent for young folks and older folks that know how to create reels. My daughter knows it. She's 18. She's going to take a little bit longer than I have right now, but so a lot of people out there they have the talent to pull together these things. It's not that hard. You just get video content in your Instagram, and then you can edit it down, add some music, add some copy, and fun, and start building a following. So that is definitely something that people need to be doing for sure. And I think paying a company for content, I'm also over there with my Grow Your Center hat on, and that's great. But I do believe every school has organic, beautiful, awesome, fun content that is built into their childcare business and their culture that they may or may not be capitalizing on.
Yep. Excellent. Yeah, we do that a lot. We have a great team at LineLeader too, to try to share a little bit about our culture, and we're always doing reels and asking me to do TikToks, and I'm like, I don't know, but you just got to put them out there. So it's been a lot of fun. So Kathy, anything else there from what marketing enrollment growth trends do you see for the upcoming year, for this year?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I love what Chris said about the technology and utilizing videos. I do it when I speak very often. I just have everyone grab their camera and do a 30-second pitch and show them how it's really not scary. And first couple times I didn't have to give a prize out for it, but now they just do it. So, but that's a really fun thing to do at staff meetings as well. And it really engages the Gen Z. What we know about Gen Z, attention span is, 8 seconds. They can manage five apps at a time, or 5 pieces of technology at once. And so they're the ones you look at first as your leaders on that. And how great is that to have the younger generation kind of flip-flop? The boomers know it all and they have the history. They're the historians of your school. But having it builds culture when different people on your team have different strengths. The other things I would say would be, As far as a growth trend for the future would be swapping out family discounts, which is what we're seeing a lot and recommending a lot for staff discounts for childcare. So that when, we're trying to recruit against another childcare center, being able to do that childcare discount really might make the difference and does make the difference, rather than family discounts, particularly family discounts like vacation weeks and whatnot as well. And then the other one would be, I would say, increased creativity around training. Remember, we're working with, think about all of our teachers, back, 30 years or 20 years, they used to be children. And what is their style of learning? Being able to make it, ideally as hands-on as possible. Do, watch, do, show them, I'm going to diaper, you're going to watch, then I'm going to watch while you diaper, and really taking the time. That's a great time to use videos. I'm going to video you diapering, and then everybody's going to watch, and let's see how they did. So really making those trainings meaningful and fun, a little goofy. Another use of that would be role playing those difficult conversations. That mom walks in really mad because you lost the pink sock that grandma made or bought in Paris. And so utilizing, what would you say? Most people freeze till they practice conversations like that.
Yeah, it's awesome. Some good stuff. Data, theme, video, reels. I love the offers thing too, Chris. I know when I was shopping recently for I have a 4-year-old and 2-year-old, and I went to a place that gave me an offer because it made me feel good, felt happy. It was more value, right? The value it definitely gave me more value for when I looked at it, tuition on an annual basis. So I think those are really, really good things. You can do with staff too. Retention bonuses, a lot easier to retain somebody than hire a new person after they've been there a while. So a lot you can do there to help make sure you have the staff to be able to grow enrollment, make sure you have the technology from CRM perspective, offers, data, video, love it. So the next question I'll tee up, we'll let Beth kick us off here. Are there any patterns of mistakes you've seen executives make when choosing to grow by acquisition? And how can our audience combat these?
Well, Hinge is the expert on acquisition, of course. And so, I see it from the ground, like, when I'm in the schools, when we do the transition, when they acquire, when they're bringing in, all of this new staff. I would say, the mistakes happen in not preparing ahead of time, not being very clear on your culture, not being clear on your systems, not being clear on really just job descriptions and how are we going to operate in the day-to-day. So if they're not using a project management tool, and there's a ton of them out there. I use Trello, there's Asana, there's Monday.com, there's tons of project management. I know Lynn loves compliance. Lynn is a big proponent on, let's get some systems in place. So find your systems. It doesn't have to be that hard, but they're making mistakes when they're not set to scale. So they may have systems for a 6-figure business. They don't have systems for a 7-figure business. They don't have the org chart, because when you grow and scale, you're going to break your org chart. So you may have had, one center where you have a director and assistant director and then lead teachers and so on. But as you grow and scale, do you need an executive director? Do you need a VP of operations? Do you need to centralize your HR? Do you need to centralize your marketing? Do you need to who's handling lead generation? And I think if they don't fully break down the individual parts and pieces on who's doing what and in what center and what does that look like, they're losing and they're failing, because if someone doesn't own it, no one owns it. Like I just did a leadership retreat it's actually a franchise, and they own, I think, 6 units, and they're expanding. They want to have 15 by the end of the year. So when we sat down and broke everything down, okay, who's doing marketing? Whoever at the school picks up the phone. No. We can't do it that way anymore. You can't do that at scale. They don't have a CRM. You've got to have a CRM. You've got to have something to funnel those leads. You've got to have someone who is intentionally following through with your funnel and making sure that you don't have a leaky funnel, just as an example for marketing. So again, I go back to systems. They're never going to be able to grow and scale successfully. So the ones who are doing it well are the ones who are really focused on the operational excellence, and then figuring out what is their service delivery look like, what does their marketing delivery look like, and then what's the role of each person? Because if someone doesn't own it, no one owns it.
Yep. Sounds like you need to send me that person's name, Beth, and we'll get them a CRM set up. So we've got the best in the space. But Kathy, from your side, from the Hinge perspective, when choosing to grow by acquisition, what mistakes do you all see most common?
So the first thing I would say is the execs way high. They're, they're the big bosses and they're acquiring. I think they need to make sure they've got people at boots on the ground that are able to do one-on-one conversations with the staff you're acquiring. It's all about culture, and culture is all about people, and people are individuals. So making sure that there's a lot of transparency. There's usually a lot of fear. What happens when someone's buying another company? The first thing, the owners typically want to make sure the staff are taken care of. That's their number one. I want to make sure that my legacy carries on. Those certain events I've done for years still happen. They may or may not, but my people are cared for. My people are treated well, are loved like I love them, and grown like I grew them. So that's the first thing. And so the executives really
if they don't, and Kathy, if they don't focus on that, it's probably a red flag.
I think so. And I mean, I think that's something we do at Hinge as coach the buyers as well as the sellers, really making sure that match is made in heaven. We want to make sure that everyone's happy. And so if the execs, sort of just stay, removed, I think they're not serving anyone well, particularly their goals. So that's one. And then the transparency piece, the second thing that happens is, I told you what the owners want. Care for their staff. What the staff want is, is my pay going to change? Because remember, everything we know about Maslow's hierarchy is people need to make sure they're safe, they've got a place to live, they've got food and water, and then they grow as a human being. So they want to make sure, all is well for them. And the first thing that parents want to know, always, is no staff are leaving, are they? I love Miss Amanda. Oh my gosh. And so if you can take care of those three things, you're off to the races. So transparency, the one-on-ones, and then definitely not neglecting culture, which all of those things will make sure you're not neglecting culture.
Awesome. Yeah, I think diligence is critical, right? Like anybody can make the numbers dance on paper, but once you lift the hood and go talk to the people that are running the business, make sure that they have a good experience, and you'll learn a lot from talking directly to employees. And also families from a quality of care perspective. So I think those are all really, really good points. Any dangers associated with rapid business growth that our audience should be aware of? And I'll throw that over to Bobby. So dangers associated with rapid business growth. You see it from a technology perspective. You see it as a parent, dealing with centers as well. But anything there you'd like to share?
Yeah, two big things that I've seen are fragmented workflows. So really honing in on your acquisition workflows and who's owning the responsibilities throughout that. Was just mentioned a multi-site looking for pretty aggressive expansion, but without a CRM, like that's got to be part of like the bedrock, right? But then throughout that acquisition process, and then also on the retention, what does your retention workflows look like? We have a staff advocate or a culture advocate here at PB&J TV, and looking about ways to inject our culture, make sure, Kathy is speaking about Gen Z. I mean, this is very, very important for staff in that age range, and scale can only happen with really good retention, or quality scale needs good retention. So that's super important to look at your retention workflows. And then one other thing too, for us is and circling back to, is the isolated data. Finding data can be complicated. So really bringing it down to simple KPIs across your organization. So build KPIs out for not just financial KPIs, but what makes a successful teacher, and find 5 to 10 KPIs and try and run that data and extract that data. What makes a successful classroom? Think about that, and then create those data points and those KPIs. And that is how you're able to create better, consistent brand experiences across your centers, is simplifying your data and creating specific KPIs for those parts of your organization.
Awesome. Chris, anything to add on that? I think you guys help a lot with the toolbox and putting processes in place and coaching. Anything specific?
Yeah, I mean, I feel a lot of the pieces and parts that everybody has already talked about. I definitely agree with Kathy about spending more time in understanding culture of what you're walking into. And I think managing change, like, to me, a lot of people don't think enough about the vision of what I want this school to look like 2 years from now. So let's drive to the vision, but let's also be gracious with dealing with these emotions around fear and change and understanding we're with a human workforce of a lot of females oftentimes, and understanding that reality of, yes, but painting that vision over and over and over again. And you can't talk about your vision often enough. So getting people behind your vision and then trying to reduce that fear and create enthusiasm so you can baby step into the change.
Yeah.
I love what Bobby said about workflows, because we talk a lot about systems and processes, but I haven't really heard it talk, a retention workflow is interesting. So I want to dig into that more with you, Bobby, because from on a daily, is the toddler workflow looks like this, or the infant workflow looks like this, or on a weekly, monthly basis. That's just an interesting concept. I don't think a lot of our clients and schools are using workflows really, really well. So I think that's a newer concept, but it's very, very cool.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Lynn, I'll let you wrap up this question. Dangers associated with rapid business growth that our audience should be aware of.
I was going to mention just about everything that was brought up here, so I won't belabor those points. What I will try to bring is just one more lens to making sure that everybody knows what the expectations are, what the responsibilities are. So often we see roughly 50% of those workflows or those processes are still on paper, on a clipboard, suggested activities, suggested responsibilities. And because of that, they're not followed consistently. We've all seen this. So the teacher says, well, you never told me that, or, well, my interpretation of that is. So we need to take the guesswork out and have that better documented. And this applies to all segments. It's not just small, medium, or large. I see this across the board. So being more deliberate about documenting those workflows and those processes. And it was mentioned before about KPIs, but I'll take that one step further, is building a system of accountability. KPIs are one piece of it, but with accountability comes responsibility. With responsibility comes ownership. And the KPIs are a way to measure and to manage that behavior, because really we are talking about change. We all become change agents in this. So KPIs are a great way to do that, but it has to tie back to, like we were just saying, the procedures, the workflows, and the expectations.
Yep. We always say at LineLeader, make sure the plumbing's in place, right? So you got to make sure the plumbing's in place so that as you grow, it just works. It's a cycle, it's a process, it's ingrained in our operation. So make sure the plumbing's in place. I think the retention workflow is really interesting, Bobby. Well, we talk about it in a different way. We say you got to have programming around culture, programming around employee engagement, right? And we are very deliberate about our retention calendar or culture calendar, and we follow it to a T. Same as we do the business plan. You outline, your 12 things you want to get done for the year from a business growth perspective, but also from an employee engagement perspective. So programming and workflows around retention are really, really important that we've seen work for our crew and our team. So really good insights there. Thank you so much. Let's move to leadership and culture building. I'm going to jump around and on some of the agenda here, but this one's, I think, is going to be really relevant, and I see it in our organization. But as more organizations come to rely on younger, and we'll call it greener talent pool to drive their mission forward, how do you suggest they remain competitive employer while ensuring staff are meeting role expectations, right? So I think this is becoming very, very relevant with the new workforce, coming out of COVID. You see a lot of things on Twitter or TikTok around, why am I not making $150,000 out of college? So how do you engage with folks, the younger and greater talent pool, to drive your mission forward? And I'll kick it off. Chris, I think you'd be a good one to kick this one off. So.
Awesome, thank you. So, today's workforce being a lot of Gen Z and millennial, I think that we need to think differently about what's going to really get them excited. And so I think having cultural components that are fun and that grab their attention are really important, from, so perks and benefits in the staff room and the break room, ways for them. I've seen Coach Jamaria on my team has a selfie wall, and she's got great branding throughout her schools where teachers can engage with just, cool stuff like the selfie wall, great decor, just going the extra mile on painting the picture, both through tactically and strategically what you want your culture to look like, and getting that really woven into your culture all the way through the different layers of your school. I think a lot of it hinges on the leadership team. Even if you have a leadership team of 2, if you're a small school, calling it a leadership team, doing leadership team meetings, having a flow. We follow the EOS model, meeting every week with your leadership team, working on issues, having a scorecard, and developing them. Really, it's people development. I think a lot of our folks come as people pleasers because we're heartfelt people in this industry. And I think trying to shift our mindsets from people pleasing to being people developers and really being willing to have those brave conversations. I love the book Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. I actually had my leadership team all read it, and we did a book club when we met for our annual leadership retreat in New Orleans about a month and a half ago. Also, we took them to New Orleans and we all had fun together. So those components of reading together, studying, coaching, working together, sharing decisions, getting buy-in at the leadership level or at the teacher level, wherever appropriate, I think those are all key cultural components. Whether or not, Gen Z, millennial, those are all just best practices. There was one other thing I was going to say about Gen Z. In terms of getting them bought in on the front end, talking about career ladders, talking about where they can take this career. Oh, and then just workforce development. Like, I think that we as an industry need to be in the high schools. We need to be working with 17 and 18-year-olds and then colleges, talking about why this is a great career and putting some apprentice programs in place. I know sometimes licensing doesn't let us bring the young people into the school as much, but I think we need to be out there trying to get more people into the field at that level, at that high school, young, feeder college level, and doing programs around apprenticeship. Because if we don't focus on growing the workforce of early educators, I think we're going to be in real trouble.
Yeah, support the mission. It starts with getting the talent pool excited about supporting the ECE space. That's why I love working in LineLeader, because of the people that we work for and work with, and the passion they have for what they do on a daily basis. So really, really great items there, Chris. Thank you so much. So we're coming up on 7 minutes left. So I want to shift a little bit from culture management to safety and security, right? And so safety and security continue to be a top focus for everyone, in 2024. What are your top 3 tips for maintaining child safety and or mitigating security risks across multiple locations? And I think, Bobby, you're a great one to kick us off here. Your platform supports that, enables that for a lot of the centers. So I'd love to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah, I'm going to cap this off with a selfless plug, but third-party audits. We are actually partnering with a company who will come on site, do on-prem risk awareness and mitigations. And I think that's super important, because you are inside your building and on your premises all day, and you may not see the things through the same lens. So getting a third-party audit done to really get an outsider's perspective on risks and risk mitigation. Obviously, we're a big believer in a camera system here at PB&J TV. Not just for parent engagement, but 40% of our users here use our tools just for administrative purposes only. And what that is training, management, teacher onboardings, utilizing it for informal observations. There's so many different ways, especially at scale, multi-site, to utilize our video management system to make sure your brand experience across schools are very similar. Monitor teacher onboardings, like I had mentioned, and ongoing review of your security protocols. You have these in place, but how often have you checked back and seen that we've updated this or this to keep up to date with times and the changes in the industry? Maybe even creating like theme and branded communication quarterly on different security updates and what's happening in the community. And then speaking back to some of the e-learning platforms for your staff is creating online training portals to keep them up to date on these security changes.
Yep. Awesome. Don't just practice the fire drill. There's a lot of other safety precautions and stuff that you can practice and run through at the center from an ops perspective. Lynn, I'd love to have you contribute to that. Security continue to be a top focus. 3 tips for maintaining childcare safety and mitigating security risk.
I'm going to start with also the auditing at One Place Childcare. We are big on the message, stay prepared for licensing as opposed to get prepared, and then also documentation. So auditing is self-auditing. What are the things that potentially could create a hazard or safety issue, and being proactive about that, and then documenting it. The documentation serves 2 purposes. One is so that when your licensor comes unannounced, that you have proof that you've been staying on top of these things. Maybe it's something that's currently scheduled for repair, but that documentation shows that you're being proactive. We're also seeing, and this is an underlying thread about documentation, but documentation becomes vital with insurance. We're seeing a trend in 2024 that insurance companies are dropping early education, and documentation is a vital piece of telling your story for your insurance renewal. So that proactive auditing of all aspects of your business are vital, and so auditing would be number 1. Secondly is around health and safety. We are seeing more and more that there's an eye toward making sure that the C-suite or leadership, whether it's a leadership of 2 or a full corporate C-suite, making sure that any injuries or incidents, that there's an escalation process, well documented, because by the time that there becomes litigation, that's an expensive problem. Could we have backed that all the way up and been proactive in the event of a child or a staff injury? So that's a big one that we're seeing. And again, it's mitigating risk, limiting liability, that mindset. And we all have that responsibility. And again, automate, analyze, and respond. Trend analysis is important. Where are we having injuries or incidents? What types of injuries? What part of the building is that happening? And looking across multiple locations so that, again, you can intervene and close those gaps from a quality and a safety perspective.
Awesome. Thank you much, Lynn. Bobby, Lynn, good stuff on the technology piece to help, mitigate risk across organizations. Love to hear it. So last question before we close up shop, and I'll let Beth take us home before we say goodbye to everybody. But are there any new ways you've seen multi-site childcare brands rely on technology in 2023 that weren't there 5 years ago?
Well, I think definitely the rise in CRM. I mean, you've been there, you've been around, but I think the utilization of that and putting those workflows in place, like using your CRM as an employee relationship management, like using your CRM to do lead generation for your employees as well as new families. The use of platforms to help with HR. I'm a big believer that 0 people are reading your manual. So, get an LMS, a learning management system, do some digitally rich content when you're training your people. Chris mentioned the rise of video. You've got to get on video. You've got to tell your story. You have to explain the why behind what you're doing. So we're in the tech age. The majority of people you hire are going to be Gen Z and millennials. They're not reading your manual. And some people, bring that, dinosaur thing out and put it on a sticky farmhouse table and say, come read, sign off, and get to work in the 2-year-old room. And so I think we're starting to realize the use of technology, the use of video, platforms like PB&J, to where they also understand that, there are eyes on you. There are eyes watching, which is good for your safety, but it's also just a good reminder that parents are really paying attention to what's happening with their children. They are logged in, they are connected, they want to stay connected. And so I think there's that accountability piece that might not have been as present 5 years ago as it is now.
Yep. Awesome. Well, that wraps up our first webinar of 2024 for LineLeader. Thank you so much for those that participated. Chris, Childcare Success Summit Company, Childcare Success Summit. Please, everybody, check it out. Kathy, thank you for joining us last minute. Really appreciate it. Hinge, awesome opportunity if you're looking to sell your center. They can coach you through that process. Bobby, PB&J TV. Awesome tech, right? You're on the cutting edge of some really neat things with AI and security. So I think if you want to keep your center safe, check out PB&J. Beth, thank you so much. You're an awesome talent, motivational speaker, leadership, coaching, all of the above. I think if you need some help there in your organization, Beth's the #1 person there. And then Lynn, thank you. One Place Childcare. Compliance is becoming increasingly more important. Management of that is crucial for mitigating risk within your organization, and you don't want to do it before it's too late. So check out One Place. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, for kicking off 2024, and big things for all of us. Good vibes across the board for 2024. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.